When we think of the American Revolution, we picture George Washington crossing the Delaware, red-coated British soldiers, and colonial patriots fighting for independence. But rarely do we hear the voices of another group, one caught in the middle of this clash for freedom: Native American tribes. For them, the Revolution wasn't just a distant conflict between Britain and its colonies. It was a fight for survival, sovereignty, and the future of their ancestral lands. By the 1770s, Native American tribes lived across vast regions of North America, from the Appalachian frontier to the Great Lakes and beyond. Both the British and the colonists sought their support. But who should they trust? Many tribes saw the British crown as the lesser threat. Unlike the colonists, who continually expanded westward, Britain had issued the Proclamation of 1763, limiting colonial settlement beyond the Appalachians. To many native nations, this was a small shield against the flood of settlers. This episode is part of an ongoing series exploring the little-known contributions of Native Americans to the American Revolution. In previous episodes, we examined how Native Americans fought with George Rogers Clark to capture the British Northwest Territory. Now we'll see how other tribes joined the fray, often making tough choices between two powerful forces vying for dominance. Several tribes chose to ally with Britain. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as the Iroquois, faced internal division, while the Mohawk, Seneca, Cayuga, and Onondaga supported the British. The Oneida and Tuscarora sided with the Americans. This split forever weakened the Confederacy. The Cherokee launched attacks against frontier settlements, encouraged by British promises of protection. However, they faced devastating retaliation from colonial militias. By the end of the war, they lost villages and farmlands. In the Ohio Valley, the Shawnee, Mingo, and Delaware tribes sided with Britain, hoping to halt colonial expansion into their territories. For these nations, the Revolution was less about politics in Philadelphia and more about defending their homelands from settlers pushing ever westward. Yet not all Native Americans chose Britain. Some aligned with the revolutionaries. The Oneida and Tuscarora, influenced by missionaries and long relationships with colonial neighbors, provided soldiers, scouts, and supplies to George Washington's army. They fought bravely at key battles such as Oriskany, where Oneida warriors stood alongside American militia in one of the bloodiest confrontations of the war. But their reward: when the war ended, the new United States largely ignored their sacrifices. For Native Americans, the Revolution was a no-win situation. Those who sided with Britain found themselves abandoned after the Treaty of Paris in 1783. Despite promises, Britain ceded vast native lands to the new United States without consultation. Those who sided with the Americans soon realized that victory brought no protection. Expansion continued, treaties were broken, and lands were taken. The Revolution marked the beginning of even greater challenges for native sovereignty as waves of settlers pushed further west. Despite the hardships they endured, Native American involvement in the American Revolution was significant. Their participation played a crucial role in the outcome of battles and influenced the course of the war. Understanding their contributions provides a more complete picture of this pivotal moment in history. One of the most notable Native American participants was Joseph Brant, a leader of the Mohawk people. Initially influenced by his father, a Scottish trader, Brant became a fierce advocate for Native American rights and interests during the Revolution. He played a pivotal role in uniting various tribes under the British banner and led military campaigns against American forces in the northern colonies. Brant's military prowess and strategic acumen made him a formidable opponent, and his efforts contributed significantly to the British war effort. Another influential figure was Nancy Ward, a Cherokee woman who emerged as a prominent leader and diplomat during the Revolution. Ward actively engaged in trade with both the British and the Americans, seeking to advance the interests of her people. She played a crucial role in mediating between the two sides and advocated for peaceful resolutions to conflicts. Ward's diplomatic skills and knowledge of colonial affairs made her a respected figure, and she continued to be a prominent voice for Cherokee representation in subsequent years. During the war, the British recognized the strategic importance of gaining Native American support and implemented policies to foster alliances. One such policy was the issuance of the Proclamation of 1763, which aimed to prevent colonial expansion into Native American territories. While the proclamation did not effectively stop westward migration, it did contribute to tensions between the colonies and Native American tribes. Additionally, the British government employed Native Americans as spies and scouts, utilizing their knowledge of the land and resources to gather intelligence and navigate the wilderness. These policies, along with the introduction of firearms and military training, enhanced the participation of Native Americans in the war effort. On the other hand, the American patriots also sought Native American alliances, recognizing the value of their military support and local knowledge. Some tribes, like the Oneida and Tuscarora, aligned themselves with the patriots, providing soldiers, scouts, and supplies. Notably, the Oneida's participation in the Battle of Oriskany in 1777 demonstrated their significant contribution to the Patriot cause. Despite facing heavy casualties, the Native American fighters played a crucial role in repelling the British forces. As the war progressed, both sides engaged in a complex web of diplomacy and negotiations with Native American leaders, attempting to secure their support and resources. The British offered promises of land and protection, while the Patriots appealed to the tribe's desire for autonomy and self-determination. The outcome of these diplomatic efforts varied, with some tribes remaining neutral while others shifted alliances throughout the conflict. The impact of the American Revolution on Native Americans was profound and long-lasting. While the war resulted in significant losses of life and land for Native tribes, it also had broader implications for their political and social structures. The revolution contributed to the decline of traditional power structures within Native American communities, leading to internal conflicts and the emergence of new leadership. Moreover, the war marked the beginning of a new era of displacement and forced assimilation policies that Native Americans would face in the following centuries. After the war, the newly independent United States expanded westward, violating numerous treaties and forcing Native tribes off their ancestral lands. The ideal of manifest destiny drove the U.S. government to acquire and settle Native lands, resulting in conflicts and further displacement. During the 19th century, assimilation policies such as the Indian Removal Act and the Dawes Act aimed to erode tribal identities and force Native Americans to adopt European American lifestyles. These policies had devastating consequences, breaking up tribal communities and disrupting cultural practices. In contrast, the British did not uphold their promises of land protection or self-governance either. Following the war, the British government failed to recognize the sovereignty of Native American nations and instead treated them as subordinate to the colonial authorities. This led to disillusionment among Native Americans who had allied themselves with the British and fueled ongoing conflicts over land rights and sovereignty. The effects of the American Revolution on Native Americans extended beyond territorial losses and political changes. The war had a profound impact on their economies, cultures, and ways of life. The introduction of new diseases, such as smallpox, devastated Native populations who had limited immunity. Additionally, the disruption of trade networks and the loss of access to resources altered traditional economic patterns and subsistence strategies. The cultural impacts of the war were equally significant, as the destruction of sacred sites, the suppression of religious practices, and the forced assimilation of Native Americans contributed to the erosion of cultural heritage and identity. Today, the legacy of the American Revolution continues to be felt by Native American communities across the United States. Despite facing centuries of oppression, assimilation, and cultural erasure, Native Americans have demonstrated resilience and determination in preserving their cultures, languages, and traditions. Movements such as the American Indian movement of the 1960s and 70s advocated for Native rights, sovereignty, and self-determination. Contemporary Native American activists continue to fight for environmental justice, land rights, and the recognition of tribal sovereignty. Understanding the experiences of Native Americans during the American Revolution is crucial for a comprehensive understanding of this pivotal period in U.S. history. Their contributions, struggles, and resilience offer a valuable perspective that challenges conventional narratives and highlights the complexities of this era. Recognizing the significant role Native Americans played in the war and acknowledging the lasting impacts on their communities is essential for appreciating the full scope and consequences of the American Revolution. The American Revolution was a time when the future of a nation was being forged. And amidst the battles and political debates, there existed a stark reality for Native Americans. Their lands were becoming a battleground, and their way of life hung in the balance. Yet history often overlooks the role of Native Americans in this pivotal moment. The narrative typically focuses on the struggle between Britain and its colonies. But what if we shifted our perspective, if we listened to the voices that history has silenced? Imagine standing on the banks of a river, the wind whispering tales of an ancient people. Here, generations of Native Americans have lived in harmony with nature, their lives intertwined with the rhythm of the seasons. But now the tranquility is shattered. The distant rumble of cannons echoes through the valley, carrying with it the scent of gunpowder and change. The year is 1776. The American colonies are on the brink of revolution, and the very foundations of society are being challenged. Across the vast expanse of North America, Native American tribes are caught in the crossfire, their destinies hanging in the balance. As the Revolutionary War erupts, Native Americans find themselves at a crossroads. Caught between the familiar oppression of the British Crown and the rising tide of American independence, they must make a choice that will shape their future forever. Some tribes see the American Revolution as a chance to break free from British rule and forge a new path forward. Others view the conflict as a means to protect their ancestral lands from the encroaching settlers. At the heart of this struggle lies the profound impact of westward expansion on Native American communities. As the colonies grow, native lands are coveted and their people are seen as obstacles to progress. The specter of displacement looms large, threatening to uproot entire communities and shatter their way of life. To understand the Native American experience during the American Revolution, we must journey to the battlefields where their bravery and resilience shone brightly. At the Battle of Oriskany in 1777, the Oneida and Tuscarora tribes stood shoulder to shoulder with American forces against the British and their native allies. The conflict was fierce, leaving hundreds dead or wounded on both sides. Yet, despite the bloodshed, the Native Americans' determination to fight for their own sovereignty and rights shone through. But even in victory, the road ahead remains fraught with challenges. As the war drags on, Native Americans on both sides suffer greatly. Entire communities are uprooted, forced to flee their homes and seek refuge elsewhere. The bonds of family and community are tested as they navigate the complexities of a war that threatens to consume all in its path. However, amidst the turmoil, stories of resilience and resistance emerge. Leaders like Joseph Brant and Nancy Ward played pivotal roles in uniting tribes, securing alliances, and advocating for their people's interests. Their courage and diplomacy serve as beacons of hope in a time of great upheaval. In the end, the American Revolution would lead to profound changes for Native Americans. As the United States emerged as a new nation, their leaders failed to recognize the sovereignty of Native tribes, setting the stage for future conflicts and struggles for land rights. The era of westward expansion loomed on the horizon, carrying with it the promise of further displacement and assimilation. The legacy of the American Revolution for Native Americans is a tale of resilience, courage, and the unyielding pursuit of freedom and sovereignty. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to learn more about the hidden stories of the American Revolution, stay tuned for more updates. Together, let's uncover the forgotten narratives that have shaped our world.